À-bas-le-ciel.
Right. So, why were you in Chiang Mai? Were you at the bike fest, or were you
Right.
did you just happen to be there at the same time?
No.
Like, what drew you there?
So, good question. I have answered it before, but I'm happy to answer it again. So, I've been in and out of Chiang Mai for more than 10 years. Unlike everyone else in this equation, I speak the language. I speak Thai with a heavy Laotian accent. I lived in Thailand, Laos, Cambodia for years. I was a real scholar, a real specialist in that field. I realize my CV is boring, but you can read, I sent you a copy of my resume. You can look that over. I studied those languages. I studied those histories. I studied that politics of that region, both ancient and modern. I did a ton of research. I did humanitarian work, NGO work, whatever you want to say. I have a meaningful connection to the history, politics, and languages of that region, including the city of Chiang Mai itself. And that is deeply threatening to those people because they don't. They're shallow hippie tourists doing self-indulgent nonsense. So that is part of the tension of the situation. I already knew the city of Chiang Mai. Had been there before. Why I arrived when I did and left when I did, which had nothing to do with the festival, was that I had a job in China, in Kunming, China, where I am right now, and I was signed up to start language classes that I'm taking right now. And I needed to do paperwork, and I needed to go to a hospital. Some of the paperwork is done at a hospital. Get my Chinese visa in order, etc. So there were really, practically for me, there were about two ways I could do that. One would be going via Chiang Mai. The other would be going via Nong Khai and Vientiane. I can get into details that are kind of meaningless. But the reality was I had a list of practical reasons to be in Chiang Mai for just a couple of days. Chiang Mai has a Chinese embassy, has a good hospital that I know, where they both speak English and speak Thai. And I could speak enough Thai to get by at that hospital, where I could get all that stuff done, and I could then get a direct flight from Chiang Mai to Kunming, which is exactly what I did. Above and beyond that, I had fans in Chiang Mai. Durian Rider isn't the only one with fans in Chiang Mai. There were people in Chiang Mai who wanted to meet me. And so I went there. That was another reason to be in Chiang Mai rather than taking a slightly different route, going from Bangkok to Kunming. And I did meet up with them. I never attended a single Rotel 4 event. I never gate crashed. I never showed up at anything uninvited. I created my own events where I met people who already knew me on the internet and wanted to meet with me. That was it. I never once showed up at any of Durian Rider or Freely's events. I never instigated anything in any way in that sense. But simply the fact that I exist is a deep challenge to their authority. I've mentioned some of the reasons for that already. I mean, if you dig around, the other reasons have to do with the pseudoscience of their diet. I'm one of the only people who came out strongly and said on the issue of Crohn's disease. Crohn's disease is an incurable disease. Translation, it is a disease for which there is no known cure. And what Durian Rider has said about Crohn's disease is false. And he was deeply threatened by that, and he made a video directly responding to me and denouncing me on that several months ago. I'm sorry, I forget how many months ago that is. You can get the date if you need it by searching his YouTube channel. Just search for Crohn's disease, and you'll see the video easily enough. Where he again claims he cured it. So on that kind of issue, I also clarified, they claim that garlic contains a neurotoxin. That is false. I don't know if you've ever eaten garlic. Garlic does not contain a neurotoxin. So there were various hard issues of science as well as politics on which I've really been a very different voice within the vegan movement. As I like to say, I mean, real people do real things. So yeah, the fact that I exist at all is in some way a threat to him, and they responded accordingly. But no, I actually wasn't there to instigate the kind of ludicrous conflict that Durian Rider himself did instigate.
Right. I know. So you mentioned that it's a kind of a small community in Chiang Mai. From your experience, can you sort of describe who you know of living there, like what that whole situation is as you know it, in terms of vegan expats living in Chiang Mai?
Yeah.
In a
Okay.
community?
Okay. Yeah. Look, there are three types of people there. Okay. There are people who are so young that this really is tragic and this really is a cult-like movement that's going to devastate them for the rest of their lives. Okay. And you can be as polite about that as you want to be, but I talked to a young woman who dropped out of high school and moved to Chiang Mai to join this social circle, shall we say. Now let's not use the word cult, okay? You tell me anyone who dropped out of high school and does something, and you're going to say what? This isn't going to impact the rest of your life. I know two examples, I think, both young females who dropped out of high school. I think so. Maybe I'm misremembering. But one for sure who I interviewed on my own channel. So you can see that interview on my channel and we talk about it. And she's very philosophical about it, the one I interviewed on my channel. Other people dropped out of college. Other people just decided not to go to college. So there's some people at a young age where that's what impacts them. And you tell me what future they really have. I hope they wake up. Some of them do. Some of them turn their lives around and get a new perspective and take on a new direction. Others don't. Okay. Then there are middle-aged people who earned it. Like they had a normal job up to a point, and for some reason they fell into this ideology and sacrificed everything to join this social circle. Now, as an example, there's a channel called Joe Vegan. So just Joe space vegan. And he and his wife talk honestly about the fact they're now disillusioned. They're not true believers. They use the word cult. They say they're no longer cult members. But they just fell in love with this idea. They quit their jobs. They sold all their furniture. They bought bicycles. And they ran away to Chiang Mai, I think just 1 year ago. I think it was last year's festival. They were true believers in this. And then they had a kind of disillusionment experience where they woke up. And they themselves say, they make videos talking about this. What were we thinking? Like, what was our plan for the future? But those are mature adults. I believe they're over 30 years old. I'm guessing their age. Because these are middle-aged people. So even then, it's kind of sad, but the consequences are less serious. And then finally, there are people who are more of a retirement age who are making this choice. And I guess for them, the consequences are the least serious because, I guess for them, going on permanent vacation maybe has no such repercussions. However, I've got to tell you something. I thought my own grandmother was a bad person because when she retired, she just decided to play tennis and basically not to give a damn about the real world or its problems. I think that we all should do our part to make the world a better place. And I think we should work damn hard to figure out what our part is. That's one of the reasons why I'm vegan. And even if you're not vegan, I think you should feel positively motivated to make the world a better place. And what is so sick about the ego trip behind this permanent vacation cult is that they pretend they're saving the world. They pretend they're making the world a better place when really they're living a life of total self-indulgence. And that's the incongruous contradiction at the heart of this for all three age groups.
Yeah. So I want to actually take a step back for a second. You said in your interview with the Light Twins that suing Durian Rider is not about your ego; it's about veganism. And what you just said reminded me of that. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, you got all day?
À-bas-le-ciel.